All right. Hello, everyone. Come on back, Milo. All right. Enough clickbait with the dog. Stop it. Stop it. All right. Hello, everyone. So for those of you just tuning in, what I try to do here in this channel is sort of a faithful examination of the grieving process after losing a loved one to cancer, with the goal being to help others walk through similar. If you've lost a loved one or anything, just getting a chance to watch the or not watch, but talk about the grieving process and the things that I was experiencing after me and my wife's incredible journey through cancer. So without further ado, I'm continuing talking about some of the more dangerous aspects of what I experienced, and I made an allusion to it in the last video that I did, was that I started to develop some really bad habits and some really bad, he's just chewing on his toy. I started to develop some really bad habits after Brittany died, and I wanted to talk about them, and talk about them in relation to sin and what it means to be a Christian, and what I was, thank you, Milo, how I managed to walk through that, and what I'm still doing now, and all that kind of thing. So I've made mention that I got her death certificate, and I spent the night on the couch just staring at it, which, Gran, thank you for reminding me. My brain was mush at the time. I actually enlisted her to pick up her death certificate, which I got that wrong. I didn't even write it down in my notes. I just completely and totally forgot about it. But I was broken. I needed some help, and Gran graciously picked up her death certificate and delivered it to me. I should have never put that weight on her. I still feel bad for that. And I know Gran's sitting over there watching this right now going, Darren, you know that I'm here and it takes a village and I'm here to help you and we're walking through this together. I can hear her yelling at me right now. So Gran, stop it. I still feel responsible because you were grieving too. You're still grieving. And I just had no more to give, and you gave even more. And I'm just incredibly thankful for that. So, as always, thank you. So, that night, I was very exhausted, and I spent the next day just kind of, whatever, called into work. And what proceeded was what I refer to in my notes as wasteful time. From February 14th to February 21st, it was a period of 5 days where I was just seeking whatever distraction I could find. And I think I had reached a point where, oh, we caught it. I reached a point where he just wants his toy, and he wants me to stop doing a video. I had reached a point in my grieving that I told you last episode that, or I told you last video that I found myself literally being mad with God. And I found myself reading that book by C.S. Lewis, A Grief Observed, and found myself thinking, man, well, at least I'm not that bad. And then winding up the very next couple of days, even worse than C.S. Lewis. At least I felt even worse than C.S. Lewis did. C.S. Lewis was doubting the existence of God. He just literally caught it mid-air. I can't, this is too much dog for me. My little monster. Okay, C.S. Lewis was doubting the existence of God and if he's a good God. Without trying to glorify my emotions at the time, I wanted to hurt, and it took me a long time to realize that I was turning into a petulant teenager who screams, "I hate you," at their parents and slams the door to their room. And while their parents call from the outside, they just yell, "Shut up. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to talk to you. I hate you." And that's kind of where I was. I slipped to a point where, yeah, and if we're talking in a metaphor, I slammed the door in God's house, which he allows me to live in rent-free and gives me space in this room. And here I am trying to hurt the Creator. And I didn't have to understand, like, I didn't just start off with this, like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like, no, this was I was angry. I was so angry, and I had no place for this anger to go. So I did it the only way I knew how. I think that to sum it all up, I guess it was just sort of like a self-destruction. I guess that, to sum it up, that's the best way to put it. I wanted to stop feeling pain, and I wanted to stop grieving, and I wanted to just have a little bit of dopamine, I guess. So I began what we Christians refer to as a sin pattern, I think there's even some phrasing as a stronghold, having a stronghold in your heart. Now, so for my non-Christian viewers, this is going to get a little metaphorical. So I'll try to explain a little bit where I can. Maybe you've heard these terms, maybe you haven't, but for those of you that haven't, I'll try to do my best. Most of my Christians, you should be pretty familiar with these concepts. So as I said, I developed a sin pattern. That night on the 16th, I got myself a giant bottle of whiskey. For those of you who followed with us for the entirety of the journey, you know that I'm not a teetotaler. I don't think that drinking alcohol is bad. I actually make my own alcohol. I enjoy the brewing process. I love the chemistry behind it. I love the art that goes into it. And I love the history behind it. I think it's really neat. And, you know, whether it's beer or wine or whatever, you know, keep everything, it's all perfectly legal. It's just, you just can't sell it, or Uncle Sam wants a cut. So I don't sell. I just make my own stuff sometimes, and, I have fun with it. But I'm not a teetotaler. I don't think that it's a problem, but in the Bible, it's written, it is a sin to, drunkenness is a sin, not necessarily the act of consuming alcohol. Even biblically, like wine was cut usually with water, or water was cut with wine to essentially kill bacteria. And there's varying sources on that you can look into. I'm not here to get into that debate, but the point is that this was different. This wasn't just me drinking alcohol for enjoyment or for whatever reason. This was me deliberately spitting in the eye of God. I was going to get a bottle of whiskey and literally just get some sense of peace. For those of you who are Christian in my group, our joy is supposed to be the Lord. Our joy is supposed to be in godly things. He gives us peace. And seeking external swear, Milo, you are a minion of Satan right now. For those of my Christian followers, we're supposed to seek the Lord for joy, for seek good things. This was me deliberately trying to do something different. This was me taking, God, you've angered me enough. You have ignored me for so long. You allowed this hurt to happen, and now I'm suffering, and it's really painful, and all of my prayers for peace and for comfort you've ignored, and you're just sitting there, and so I'm going to take matters in my own hands, and I'm just going to numb the pain for a day. Well, what started as a drink, what started as me drinking a lot, I have a pretty high tolerance, so it's, it's not exactly a, it takes a little bit. So I just overindulged, and what happened at this point was, for those of you that drink alcohol, overconsumption lowers inhibitions. It makes it easier for you to do the things that you want to do. You just don't do it normally. And what does that mean for a Christian? Well, of course, all of my fellow Christians out there, for my non-Christian friends, we're crazy people. We know it. The things that we believe, the things that we say, the things that we do, we're nuts. That's just by standard definition. We are. And that's okay. We fully, we're okay with being crazy. We're okay with being nuts. And, whatever. If I believe it so much that if I look at my life and I say I'm wrong, or if I get to the end of my life and I realize that I'm wrong, then all of my life will have been this absolutely insane waste. And I'm sitting here now, I look at that potential possibility and I go, that's not enough to stop me from continuing to act like a Christian, continuing to try to be a follower of the way, which is a really cool, I think that's the original terminology for Christians, followers of the way. Anyway, or followers of the path, followers of the way. I think that's it. I'll have to do some research on that. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. I might be wrong. Anyway, I'm meandering so much in this. I'm sorry. The point is that we live and we try to uphold these standards, and we have grace and we have forgiveness when we fail. And if we're not careful, we can start to get into a sin pattern, a cycle, well, one more time, God will forgive me. You know, like, it's fine. Here I am on the edge again. Fine, just one more time. Let me just do this thing and just get it over with. And then, you know, yeah, I'll be okay. And then God will, you know, ask for forgiveness and God will forgive me. And before you know it, it's months, years, literal decades, walking through a stronghold, walking through a stronghold in your heart. It is the metaphor that we use to describe a place where we don't let God touch. We don't let God have his way. We don't let God into our life. So we wall it off. We put up these walls and we say, God, you can have 90%, 99% of my heart, have all of this, but I'm going to keep this piece for me. And that's wrong. God is the creator of the universe. God's the creator of the universe. He's the literal master of everything, creator of you, and he loves you enough to let you choose him. And if I'm going to follow, there's no half-hearting it. There's no half stance in this. There's either 100% or no percent. So if I'm going to follow, I need to follow. I need to do it right. But I wound up with a stronghold. I wound up with this pattern that I began to repeat. And for those of you who drink alcohol, you know that it lowers inhibition. So it made it easier for me to indulge in other things, other sin, other things that I wouldn't want to be a part of and don't want to even talk about. Like, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, that's the thing. Like, it literally opened a gateway for me that was kind of like, hey, you want to cut loose and have a break? There you go. So you drink a little alcohol, and then before you know it, everything else is okay. And then before you knew it, I didn't need the alcohol. And this has happened very quickly. All of this within 5 days, I was all of a sudden in a spiral that I couldn't get out of. I struggled for months to get out of this. Here I am posting these videos, trying to be a godly person, answering all of the comments that I was getting on every single video, and feeling so guilty because I know that here I am, I'm watching myself be a better person and talking to you as though I was that better person, but I was lying. I was actually a crappy person at the time. I was a crappy person through all of it. And I struggled with that. I struggled a lot with that. So then I wound up, the pattern became even more complex. Well, if the video goes live on this date and I answer comments on this date, then I'm only going to drink on, or I'm only going to engage in these activities on this date and this date. That way I've got a couple of days of a buffer. That way I don't feel so bad about myself whenever I answer these comments. The mental gymnastics that we will do to protect our own psyche. Whether you're a Christian or not, that is a universal truth of humanity. We will do all kinds of crap to make sure that our brains feel protected. So anyway, what's going to happen from this point forward? I'm not going to go into a lot of the details because a lot of my journals and a lot of my writings are about my lament with this sin and this inability to break free of this cycle, and how it seemed to get worse. Like over time, like there was a widening and widening gap in my heart, and I couldn't fill it. I could dump all the alcohol and all the pleasure and all the distraction into it, and it wouldn't fill the hole. And there's only one fill for that. There's only one solution for that, and that is Jesus Christ. And I was actively choosing to walk away from him. It really sucked. So yeah, those 5 days were terrible. And it wasn't just those 5 days, it was the months directly after. I struggled a lot, and I fought a lot. And like I said, a lot of my journals will talk about that. We will talk about some of those subjects. We're also going to talk about other things too, so don't worry. That's going to be, a lot of that's going to be in there. But if I had to sum all of this up and put a summary on it, God is good. He has infinite mercy and infinite wisdom and infinite love for a broken and terrible people. That's all I can say. As for me and my sin pattern, it's better. It took me a long time to kind of course correct. And I'm still struggling a little bit, but I've been okay. It's not nearly as bad. It's not nearly as horrible as it was in the very beginning. As a matter of fact, the last couple of weeks, it's been really, really good. And I only have God to thank for that, so. But that being said, I think that it's enough of this video. This mutt down here, Milo, has continually tried to distract me from doing this. My literal, my nut bag. But would you stop panting? They can hear that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all go. I will be back, and next video, I promise, will be a little more entertaining and not so deep and depressing. I promise, because we'll get to talk about some of my more artistic endeavors, and we'll get to talk about that. But actually, some of Brittany's artistic endeavors, which then became my artistic endeavors. I'm mentioning this. Gran knows what I'm talking about, but you guys will just have to wait till next video. So, that being said, thank you guys for following along. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for continuing to hang out with me while I go through this crazy journey of what it looks like for the people that remain. And apparently Milo wants to say hey too. Stop that! Meyer's out.